The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Big white bird, gonna fly right out of here without a single word. But you know you'll break my heart when I watch you close that door, 'cause I know I won't see you anymore. Don't pour your love out on me, baby.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Don't forget, you can always read the online version of the X Chronicles newspaper. I think we have about 30 editions from our archives up at www.xchronicles-newspaper.com/publisher. And the September issue was there. We're so happy. Over 217,000 reads at that website. That's not including the members of the media that we sent copies to, our mailing list, our subscription list. So anyway, I just want to thank everyone for making this one of the most popular editions that we've had, and we're expecting more come the October issue, which of course is dedicated to Halloween and all things that go bump in the night and so on and so forth. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Walter BOSLEY, a former FBI counterintelligence specialist. He is also a former special agent with the AFOSI. He's a licensed private investigator and personal security consultant, and is also founder and publisher at Lost Continent Library. Walter is in pre-production on Secret of the Amazon Queen, his first feature film as a director, and is co-author with Richard B. Spence of Empire of the Wheel Espionage, the Occult and Murder in Southern California, which is currently available at Amazon.com. If you'd like to find out more about Walter and Lost Continent Library, it's very simple. Just go to lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. And Walter BOSLEY, welcome to the X-Zone.
Well, Rob, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Former FBI counterintelligence specialist, special agent with the AFOSI, licensed private investigator, personal security consultant, and publisher at Lost Continent Library. Wow, where do you find time?
Oh, well, you got to pretty much stop one to do the other. I did that a few years ago. I was traveling around the world doing consulting, and my son started high school, and I decided, well, I'd better be around during those high school years. So I decided to focus on the publishing, and that's what I've been doing mostly over the past 6 years.
Wow!
And expanding the catalog, doing some writing, and just making it work, getting the movie going, and I stayed busy.
I certainly can see that. Tell us a little bit about Lost Continent Library.
Lost Continent Library is an adventure fiction publishing company, the classic adventure that I started in 2002. It focused primarily on the old-fashioned type adventure. All the stories took place, they were set prior to 1950. That was the cutoff. And we've been going strong for good gosh, 9 years now, and I've expanded. I do not just classic adventure. We're getting into a little bit of steampunk. I have other imprints for pure science fiction and kind of noir thrillers, and also nonfiction, which is what we published Empire of the Wheel under.
When we come back from this 2-minute commercial break, Walter, I'd like to talk to you about Empire of the Wheel, espionage, the occult, and murder in Southern California. How does that work for you?
That sounds great.
All right, Walter BOSLEY is my special guest this hour, Exo Nation. www.lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. This coming February 2012, 17, 18, 19, I'm going to be the Master of Ceremonies at the Body, Soul, Spirit Expo in Toronto, Ontario. That's being held at the International Centre right across the street from Pearson International Airport. For more information on how you can become an exhibitor, if there's any spots left, or if you'd like to find out about the Body, Soul, Spirit Expo itself, visit their website at www.bodysoulspiritexpo.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break with Walter BOSLEY as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Don't pour your love out on me, baby. If you do, then I think that maybe I'll just lay me down. Right for 100 years. Don't pour your love out on me, honey. I used to be a renegade. I used to fool around, but I couldn't take punishment and had to settle down. Now I'm playing it real straight, and yes, I cut my hair. You might think I'm crazy, but I don't even care, 'cause I can tell what's going on. It's hip to be square. It's hip to be square. I fight my fans in business suits. I watch them on TV.
Walter BOSLEY is our special guest this hour, Exo Nation, lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. And along with Richard B. Spence, he is the author of Empire of the Wheel, Espionage, the Occult, and Murder in Southern California. What was the inspiration for writing Empire of the Wheel?
Well, that was interesting. It started out as a fun little bit of research to follow up on my Disneyland book, Latitude 33, that involved ley lines and Disneyland and strange phenomena associated with that. And I decided, well, what would I find if I followed the ley lines that intersect in Disneyland, as that book discusses, and researched and looked into what I would find. So one of the lines came out here past the Inland Empire, which is where I live, and I discovered that there was a fun little ghost story associated with the ley lines in this area. And I went and talked to the source on that, and her name's Ann Walker. She's a local librarian. And she told me that she believes the ghost that haunted the shopping mall here was actually a woman named Cora Stanton, who may have been murdered. So I thought, wow, that's interesting. I went over to the library, the special collections room, and dug into the newspapers of the day. And what I found kind of got my attention real quick. It looked indeed like she may have been murdered, but what I also found were 6 other people, 3 of them children, who died under very mysterious and questionable circumstances around the same time. This is all within, most of them, a matter of just weeks, and one of them a couple of months prior. And the more I looked into it, the stranger it got, the more involved it became. And next thing I knew, I was neck deep in what I believe is a big fat mystery that involves possibly serial murder and the occult.
Where did your interest in the occult and the strange and the bizarre come from?
Oh, I've been interested in that for many years, from the time I was a teenager. When I was a kid, I was naturally, as many people start, interested in UFOs. And then as you learn more about that phenomenon, you begin to see the other phenomenon and connected with it. And, one thing leads to another, trying to understand that mystery, and it kind of draws you in. And I've just been interested in it for years anyway, so this was right up my alley.
As a former special agent with the AFOSI, did you ever investigate UFOs for the Air Force?
No. My specialty was counterespionage. I was chief of a counterespionage operations branch at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I was a counterintelligence agent in Los Angeles, my first assignment in El Segundo at LA Air Force Base. However, as you would imagine, that line of work, I had to have the right clearance levels and acts for what I did for that organization. So you kind of get exposed to technology that certainly explains a lot of what people see out there.
Really, in your opinion, are there UFOs from other planets or other stars, dimensions of reality visiting this planet?
Absolutely, yeah. I do think so. I do think that the majority of what people see is actually human technology. However, that doesn't explain all the sightings, all the experiences, and I do accept that there are people coming here from other planets, and the other dimensional thing really intrigues me quite a bit. So I think there's something to that. But even though I will say that about 80% of what people, 80 to 90% of what people are seeing are human technology, I'm not one of those that dismisses the idea that there's people coming here from other worlds. To me, it seems logical.
You're a former FBI counterintelligence specialist. Now, what does a counterintelligence specialist do?
Well, there's not the title counterintelligence specialist is what I use to describe the various positions I had in the Bureau. I had two positions during my time with the Bureau in National Security Division. They call it now. We used to call it the Foreign Counterintelligence Division when I started. And the first counterintelligence assignment I had was on a surveillance team. Basically, I followed known or suspected foreign intelligence officers around in a highly trained covert manner, of course. That's because surveillance is kind of my specialty. I continued to do it throughout my career and over the years, and I do it now as a PI. And then I was a language specialist, Russian, and I was on a squad that was targeted against Russian intelligence officers working in the United States. So between those two, basically, they were both specialist positions. They're not agent positions. I didn't carry a badge and a gun, but I had a credential. And they were in the counterintelligence operations arena. I actually, was doing the street work,
right,
and was under what we call shallow cover. So it was an operational job that served me well,
right,
experience-wise, when I became an agent.
So I would imagine with the FBI, you would be what we consider now to be a civilian member?
Well, everybody's a civilian. Well, of course, I'm speaking like a military veteran. Yeah, but
yeah,
they're all civilians. But a support employee is what they refer to as, meaning you're non-agent. You don't carry a badge, you don't carry a gun. So what you're called is a support employee. But they have operational support, and then they have administrative support. And I started out. My first job for the first month was I was a mail clerk. Just delivering the mail around the office, and then got pulled into counterintelligence.
Excellent. Tell us about your first feature film, Secret of the Amazon Queen.
Secret of the Amazon Queen. Well, that is the first novel that my publishing company is. It's a small press. I publish, right now about 5 or 6 other authors. And I also publish my own works. That was half the reason for starting a publishing company. It's not a vanity press. It's an honest-to-goodness publishing company where, when we were doing print, I paid out of my own pocket. But Secret of the Amazon Queen is my first adventure novel under my pseudonym E.A. Guest. And it's what I call gothic pulp adventure. It's kind of a bubblegum popcorn type of genre story, period piece, for grown-ups. It's most definitely not for kids. It's emphasis on the pulp. If you're really into the history of pulp fiction, you realize that it was the edgy stuff of its day. This is what we could now call new pulp. And it's kind of like it takes place in the 1800s, and you have these explorers that go down to South America, and they're captured by Amazons and taken to their hidden city, where they're ruled by a really beautiful queen who kind of takes an interest in the leader of the expedition. But of course, as things get uncovered and revealed and ensue, we find out that the queen is rather a femme fatale, somewhat of a villain, and you'll have to read the story to learn what happens to the rest of it. But the film has been in development. We started a company in England. One of the BBC companies was originally looking at it back in 2004. And we finally landed now with a producer in San Diego, and we're going to be shooting about 3 weeks on a soundstage in San Diego and 1 week on location, either in Mexico or South America. Probably South America, the way Mexico has been looking lately.
Yeah, it's not too safe down there.
No.
Has the electronic printing or in the ebook market taken away from print publishing houses?
Certainly, it's impacted that, and I'm one of these guys who I've got a foot in both camps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old enough. I'll be turning 48 this weekend. I'm old enough that I love printed books. I appreciate printed books. I prefer printed books.
Yeah.
However, I'm just young enough that I see where the future's going, and it's not even the future, it's here. It's the here and now. And as a small press publisher, I have to tell you, with the way the economy's going, with the way the market is changing, the electronic I've embraced fully because it has allowed me to keep my label alive and in business. I stopped doing printed books in my catalog last year. And we do print on demand, however, which is really the best way to go, I think, to stay in the printed book business. But certainly, everybody is enjoying their gadgets. This is an electronic digital age and era, I should say. And, people like the convenience. People like being able to store an entire library on a small little device. More and more people are embracing the reading of books on little screens, and the devices are accommodating to true book lovers by the way they present it visually.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, it's impacted. It's putting the bookstores out of business, but part of what's putting the bookstores out of business, they shot themselves in the foot with the model that they started 20 years ago, by making it comfortable to sit in a bookstore and read the book there.
Really?
You got to realize that's been around now about almost 20 years, and people have gotten used to that. So they go in the bookstore, they pull a book off the shelf, they sit there and read it while they drink a $2 cup of tea, and they don't buy the book. And now that the digital age makes it cheaper and more convenient, they're buying books even less. And then when you throw the economy in there, it's a combination of things, but certainly the digital publishing era has indeed affected the print world.
Walter, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation Walter BOSLEY is our special guest. He is the author of, with Richard B. Spence, Empire of the Wheel, Espionage, the Occult, and Murder in Southern California. Plus, he is also the, he's in pre-production on Secret of the Amazon Queen, his first feature film as a director. The website, www.lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. And Walter and I will be back after the news as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Why do I feel like I'm losing control? Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I'm found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you. Let them say we're crazy.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. You're listening to us from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, the Caribbean, Central America, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. The X Zone is also available on BOSLEY, Roku, Sony TV, and Apple TV, and I think there's a couple more in there. I just don't have them on the tip of my tongue, but a number of you have asked me to let you know what the latest downloads are from our Podspots on Apple iTunes for this year, 894,968. Thanks to you, the members of the X Zone Nation. Walter Bosley is our special guest. We're talking about the Lost Continent Library. He is also in pre-production on The Secret of the Amazon, his first feature film as a director, and he is the co-author with Richard B. Spence of Empire of the Wheel, Espionage, the Occult, and Murder in Southern California. His website is lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. How hard is it for someone with the idea of writing a book to actually get it published if they don't want to do the self-publishing route?
Well, it all depends on who you go to, really. Every publisher has their guidelines, what they do publish and what they don't. And a lot of times people think that when a publisher says, no, that's not quite a good fit for us, that they're rejecting their writing, when actually as a publisher you learn that you really got to stick to what your guidelines are. Now, I say that, but the reason a lot of times a publisher will create an imprint, which is another little label, is because they have a book come across their desk that they really believe in, they like, and they think, hey, we can do something, with this book for this author. So they want to go ahead and publish it, but they just don't want to publish it under their normal imprint. Now, I do that. Lost Continent Library is my strict classic adventure kind of steampunk adventure pulp label. However, I have the other imprints, as I said before. So what an author needs to do is, really identify what genre their book is in, do their homework, look at all the available publishers out there, and just kind of eliminate the ones that, are probably not going to be interested in their book, and really go after the ones that they think will be. These days, actually, I think we're in a great era for authors in that the digital world offers so many opportunities. And, self-publishing is not what it used to be. There used to be a big stigma attached to it, but actually there's nothing wrong with an author creating their own label to publish their own books, because the digital world is allowing so much more to be considered and taken seriously, so that self-publishing doesn't have the stigma so much anymore that used to be attached to it.
But there are a lot of authors who self-publish, Walter, and please correct me if I'm wrong, who expect immediate results. They don't realize that there's a lot of marketing that has to happen. There's a lot of correspondence that has to be done. It's just not a matter of sitting down at your computer, doing a story and putting it up in e-format. There's so much more to it, and I've seen so many authors get discouraged because they don't realize the work that has to go into it.
Right. Oh, you're absolutely right. You do writing the book and getting the book down, getting it right is just the start of the whole. You really do have to get out there and push it and promote it. You've got to get out and talk on podcasts, radio shows. Gosh, if you can get on TV, you've got to do your blogging and you get out there in the social media. You really have to be constantly promoting yourself as much as the book. You've got to get yourself out there as a brand. I usually don't like terms like that. I don't like when people brand themselves, but for the practical purposes, that's what it is. And exactly, the work really starts once the book is finished and in a published form. And there are a few holdouts, old school guys that, oddly enough, don't like coming out there and promoting themselves. I guess the rest of us have a sufficient ego that we kind of enjoy talking about ourselves for an hour or two at a time.
And that's one of the advantages of being with a major publishing house is they do all the work for you. But when you're doing it yourself, it's roll up the sleeves and get those elbows to the grind. That's
right. The beauty, though, is look who gets the profits.
Exactly.
Do it yourself. The other advice I would give is if you do publish yourself, or if you're looking for a publisher, look for one, or keep your book when you're a new author priced as low as you can get it. The books that are priced around $1 are making amazing headway into the profit margin. Major publishers are pulling their hair out because independent authors and publishers are out there selling these digital books for 99 cents, and the market is responding. People are giving new authors a chance for $1 that they wouldn't when it was printed, and they had to lay down $8, or those authors couldn't even get published before for whatever reason, and now they're able to get their stuff out to the entire world. And you price it right, you might sell more for $1 than you will for $10.
And there's also these authors who self-publish or e-publish, put it on Amazon or any of the other many electronic libraries and bookstores out there, and sit on their behinds and wait for things to happen. And then they get so discouraged. Well, how come my book's not selling? Well, it's because you're not pushing it.
You got to ring. You got to get out there and be the town crier for yourself.
Exactly.
Ring the bell and yank people's chains and say, "Hey, I'm out here."
It's just like when I do consulting for businesses. They will say, "Well, are you on any of the social media?" Well, that takes a lot of time. Well, of course it takes time, but if no pain, no gain.
That's right.
It's that simple. What, in your opinion, was your greatest self-accomplished moment when writing Empire of the Wheel?
Oh, well, I'll tell you the goosebump moment.
All right.
Was the night that I was doing some research, and I immediately had to tell Rick what I had discovered. But it had to do with, and this is in the book, we have a chapter on this, the discovery about the Zodiac Killer. Now, the case in our book takes place in 1915, but we present that the evidence suggests that the killer or killers was killing people on or associated with ley lines, the energy lines that run through the earth, of course, which I wrote about more extensively in the Disneyland book. Well, what we discovered, and the book presents for the first time anywhere, is that the Zodiac Killer appears to have been attacking or killing his victims on ley line sites. And this is what all the known victims and even the suspected ones have in common. And that really, I was doing some analysis with the maps. Looking at the Zodiac Killer popped up in the research because one of his possible victims was murdered over here in the Inland Empire at Riverside Community College in October of 1966. And we had identified a ley line running through there. Now, in our book, we consult a guy who's been studying geomorphology for almost 30 years, and he provided us with the analysis when this theme popped up in our research. So when I saw that one of the Zodiac's alleged victims was killed there on this ley line, I thought, well, what the heck? And so I looked at all the sites of his other attacks and his known victims, and I was astonished. Like I told you, I got goosebumps because I had a ley line map that I'd had for about a year and a half before I even came across this, and I compared the Zodiac attack sites to this map that I'd had for over a year, and every one matched to ley lines. And it astonished me and Rick, and we decided this was important enough to go ahead and include in the book. And the chapter in Empire of the Wheel that goes into this goes into great detail and lays this out. And that was really the biggie. That's really a biggie. However, there's other things in there. When we pulled a thread, essentially, in Empire of the Wheel, by pulling one thread, we revealed all sorts of interesting synchronicity. We discovered that Aleister Crowley was in the area going through California and had to go through San Bernardino where these murders took place like a week before. We discovered a connection between Harry Houdini and one of the players in this mystery. And of course, if you're familiar with the Houdini saga, he went after the spiritualists, and then, of course, some people think he was murdered by them by poison. And in our mystery, there were some questionable deaths that involved poison. So it really was pointing to a perpetrator that was involved in the world of esoterica or spiritualism specifically.
What do you think the significance of the ley lines is in the case of the Zodiac Killer?
Just like it is in what we think it is with our case, that by killing people, basically human sacrifice on the ley lines gives the perpetrator some type of power or energy. In our book, we present, based on the circumstances and the synchronicities that popped up, that there was the worship associated with an ancient goddess involved in this. In the Zodiac's case, it's hard to tell. Again, our book doesn't point to any one perpetrator, doesn't try to identify the killer. What it does is it says, here's what we think was part of his MO, what he was doing. And we think it had to involve the theme of power, personal power, because if you recall, in the Zodiac case, he claimed that all his victims would become his slaves in the afterworld. And there's other circumstances in the Zodiac Killer case to point to the killer or killers having knowledge of esoterica and the occult and such. We kind of present the possibility that the Zodiac Killer, so to speak, might have been more than one person as well. We're not the first to say that, but definitely we think he was aware of what he was doing with the ley lines.
Do you think
and only he or they can say exactly what the objective was, but we present what we can.
Do you think that law enforcement considers ley lines when doing an investigation that includes death?
Well, I'd like to say this. Our book, we went at this, we're not saying that the reader has to believe in what we present with the ley lines. We're not saying that the reader even has to agree with or believe in what we say the killers believed in. What we emphasize in the book more than once is that we're presenting what we think the killers were motivated by and what the killers believed. Yeah. So, that said, we see the book primarily as a true crime book, and all the esoteric weird stuff serves, the MO possibly of the killers. Now, speaking as a criminal investigator myself, from that angle, from trying to understand the perpetrator and what he or she or they were doing, yes, I think a criminal investigator would take into account all of this esoterica to serve the purpose of, say, putting together a psychological profile of the perpetrator. And while not necessarily having to believe in these principles, because remember, none of that has to be true it only has to be true in the killer's mind. If you follow me,
Sure do.
See their motive for doing what they did and how they did it.
You made reference a couple of times to the ley lines and Disneyland. We've got about a minute and a half, and then, of course, I can carry on to the other side of the break. Can you just give us a little bit of a teaser as to what your other book was about?
Oh, yes. That, based on a personal experience I had as a teenager at Disneyland many years ago, that kind of stuck with me and haunted me, I started looking into strange esoteric things involving Disneyland. And boy, did I find some things. And the book goes into that and the man who actually designed Disneyland and his association to the esoteric.
All right. When we come back, if you could give us one or two examples, that would be fantastic. Walter, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It's a very interesting hour, interesting topic, and I wish you nothing but success with your movie, Secret of the Amazon Queen, and of course with your new book that you wrote with Richard B. Spence, Empire of the Wheel, Espionage, the Occult, and Murder in Southern California. Exonation, to find out more about Walter Bosley and his many going-ons, visit his website, lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. And Walter and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away now.
Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I'm found is too good to be true.
Exonation, Walter Bosley is our special guest this hour. Website, www.lostcontinentlibrary.blogspot.com. All right, Walter, what kind of examples can you give us about the ley lines and Walt Disney? And Disney World, I should say. Disneyland. I'll get it right yet.
Disneyland was designed by a gentleman named C.V. Wood. He was hired by the Disney brothers from the Stanford Research Institute, which many of your listeners may be familiar with. That institute was involved with the creation of all sorts of amazing technology, plus they were involved with remote viewing and other interesting things out there on the edge. And C.V. Wood was very much interested in this stuff, and he was the man who physically designed Disneyland. And he placed the carousel on the intersection of 3 ley lines that run through the Disneyland property, according to our geomorphology expert, Sechery, who's written a fantastic book on this subject, not specifically Disneyland, but the general subject of the geomorphology and the ley lines, called The Handprint of Atlas. The experience I had at Disneyland is in the book in greater detail, but it involved possibly some experience with interdimensional phenomenon. It's kind of a story in itself. And that kind of, it hung with me for years, including the synchronicities about it. I met this old man one night at Disneyland after riding the carousel, and he said his name was Alfred, and many years later, I'm working for the FBI in Manhattan, and I come across a book called The Old Straight Track, written by a guy named Alfred Watkins. I open it up, and there's the man I met at Disneyland. The problem is that man, Alfred Watkins, died in 1935.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, oh, my gosh. And so that stayed with me for years, and I learned that Disneyland is on the 33rd degree of latitude, which other weird, interesting things are associated with the 33rd degree of latitude. And one thing led to another, and I decided, well, I'm going to dig into this. And as I dug into it, it's all in the book there. The very interesting things that I discovered associated with Disneyland and these ley lines, and Southern California in general. And what's interesting is, and this is good background for Empire of the Wheel, my co-author, Richard Spence, his book, Secret Agent 666, which is about Aleister Crowley and the Lusitania and his spy work while he was in the United States, was what brought me to Rick to bring him into the book Empire of the Wheel, because it provided some background for what was going on with the mystery here in San Bernardino. It turns out Crowley, every place he stopped and every place he traveled through on his tour through the U.S. followed the route of these ley lines and their intersections. So my reaction was, what's this? This is kind of odd. And
Walter, I hate to do this, but we've just run out of time. We'll have to have you back on to talk more about the ley lines, Aleister Crowley, Disney World, and much more. Until then, keep up the great work. Congratulations on all that you do, and we look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care, Walter. LostContinentLibrary.blogspot.com. I'll be back after the break. Don't go away.